to hide.
Hello, hello, hello. It is Matt and Gabe from the Press Center in Malmo, and we are here to discuss the second semifinal 10 qualifiers. I think, which semi are we on now? It's all a blur now, but now it's the second one. And Gabe, how is the mood in the Press Center?
Well, I think at the moment I would characterize the mood as quite shocked by the result, actually. I think the way we opened that qualifying sequence threw us a complete curveball that I don't think anyone predicted. I think the one thing that we did get right is that a lot of us did correctly guess who the shock NQ was going to be. But I think there was absolutely... you will struggle to find a person in this room who thought that Latvia was going to qualify. That is an absolutely
Well, that we're going to get to in just a second. Yes. I think we all owe a big apology to Latvia for not believing it could qualify, so, and it's a wonderful, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, what's the last time the three Baltic countries qualified together? Was it in 2015? It's the last one I can think of. I want to say that was the last time.
I think it might have been. It might have been.
Yeah, that's the last one I can think of. So I think we should jump right in. Thank you, everyone in the chat, by the way. I know we have to go for a little bit of the songs real quick here, so I'll answer your questions as well as we go along. And when you talk to us at ESC United, we can address them on topic. Be nice, be kind, okay? But since we already, you kind of opened let the cat out of the bag already, Gabe, let's talk about the first announcement of the night. I always say, they always do that now every year. They will announce the surprise or less expected qualifiers first, just to kind of start this whole what, and the panic sets in. And sure enough, Latvia was not believed by hardly anyone. I know there was one person like, I thought it would. I'm like, you know what I mean. Hardly anyone believed that was going to happen. I always said this song should be in the top 10 according to my taste, but wow, what I was blown away as well. I mean, my reaction video is going to be up in a few minutes. I was, everyone, was it a big like gasp in the press room?
Yes.
Or what happened?
Oh, it was like everyone was looking around, like total shock. And I was with I saw David and Emma on our team straight away afterwards, and we were just looking at each other like it was a total. I mean, in my time covering, that has got to be one of the biggest shock qualifiers in recent years. I cannot remember
since Say Na Na Na. I almost want to say.
I would say since Say Na Na Na. Yeah.
I will give a compliment because this was also Don's best performance. I mean, he's vocally always good, but he was really feeling it. That was his. I watched. I'm like, wow, I know it's not going to go through, but I want this through. So sure enough, there was some connection that he didn't have before. One of the best performances I've seen of him. Yeah, unlike San Marino, unfortunately, we'll talk about that in a minute as well, of course, which had probably the worst performance today. So it really, sometimes you can have all the predictions, you have all the input, but if someone really performs on the night where it matters even more than, or the opposite, you cannot really anticipate that. So we're going to get also the running order, like who's going to be in the first, second half. So also yours, if you see that somewhere in the chat, let us know. I know that they got on Reddit last time, so as soon as that pops up, we're going to address that.
I'll keep
so
an
is there
eye out
anything
too.
else you want to say about Latvia? People like this is now it's not going to shut up in the odds too much. Do you think it was the 10th place? I mean, we can guess now it's going to be like 8th or something like that.
It's going to do a lot better in the final because I think juries will get on board with this.
Yes.
It's bad news for Isaac, I would say, because they kind of have a similar quality to the voice, similar kind of quality to the song. Those two could potentially conflict with each other a little bit. But honestly, I think now Latvia is not going to finish below 20th place. This is going to pick up jury points. Could pick up a decent number, in fact. This is one of those songs that we sort of said before. If it gets to the final, it's going to have a better time of it, but it's going to scrape through the semis. I'm really, really stunned by this. As someone in chat rightly points out, this is according to the odds, as long as we've had qualification odds, this is the biggest shock qualifier ever.
In terms of like qualification odds, like it's the lowest. Really? Even lower than say na na na? I'm still stuck on that. I can't get past that.
You could get 7-1 odds on this qualifying. 15% implied.
Somebody's a millionaire tonight.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's gonna be a lot of money. But you cannot be. I mean, I'm sure some people are upset because maybe their favorite country didn't go through and they blame it on Latvia, but there are 9 other countries that also qualified, you know. So it is well deserved. I'm so happy, and I think it's a wonderful song. And I am happy. So at that point, Gabe, what was, besides complete shock, what was going through your mind? We're like, oh no, Belgium is out. We're like, oh no, something else is going to happen. Or what was your first thinking?
My first thought was to Belgium. I was like, well, now we're looking at the countries that were on the edge. I was extremely worried about Estonia. Because I love it so much. I was really hopeful that Europe would get it, and they did. But in that moment, you start questioning everything. So there was an element of me, and I was thinking about the strength of some of those performances. I thought Malta were great as well. I felt, that Czechia had a good chance. I was thinking there's all of these countries, and this does not go into 10. And that it got scary. So I feared for Belgium, and that proved to be true. I feared for Estonia. Yeah.
I know, yeah, Estonia was another one I thought it probably Belgium, but I could see Austria and Estonia potentially missing out, which I know we could talk about Latvia all night, but we got to move on to the other countries as well. Latvia qualified because it's only without the only number without dance break. Almost, that is true, people getting tired of dance breaks. Then the next country that was announced was Austria, which then was a big sigh of relief for me because it was initially like, oh my God, did Austria again flop? Because, this is not an easy genre. And even though she's not vocally the best, what I loved about this performance, and usually I hate this. I absolutely hate when they do this whole thing. Mom, are you ready? And all that stuff. But it worked so well here. This louder. And I was like, oh my God, she's giving me energy. She's giving me excitement. And that was so well placed. And yes, was it vocally the best performance? No, I don't think so. But as I said, this song in particular is not required to have like flawless vocals. They have a backup track, and they did the mixing really well on here as well, unlike other performances, Poland. So yes, I think when I watched, I'm like, this is a really good package tonight. It felt right, but I still was getting nervous because it's Austria. What are your thoughts?
So I did have the briefest moment of doubt, but I thought tonight was her strongest performance. I thought she was vocally a lot better. So for that reason, I was, this one is going through. I reckon probably somewhere 5th to 8th kind of range in the semi. I don't think it had the star power to get it into the upper reaches, but it felt pretty certain. Pretty certain qualifier once I saw the performance. She sounded better. It's still not great, but she sounded a lot better tonight.
Yes. It's funny because today it really has shown like the people have improved and some people that kind of faltered a little bit. And it's also shown in the results a little bit. And it still shows even in the televote. If you don't do vocally, if you miss vocally, it can still have a huge impact in the televote as well. Not all the time, but there were a few today where it really made a big impact, I think. Guys, Italy revealed the results of the televote. They cannot reveal the televote's result. That's only the EBU has.
They did, though. I'm watching the clip right now. They did.
Is that legit though?
Well, it seems so. It looks like it, yeah.
They're gonna get into trouble.
They'll get into a lot of trouble, I'm sure.
What does it say though? While you see it?
Well, if this is true, it says that Israel got 39% of the televote from Italy. I think it's worth bearing in mind the voting volume is a lot lower in the semifinals than it is in the finals. So that's representative of the fact that Israel has a small but very committed group of voters who are going to vote en masse for it. And that will, of course, affect the semi-final as well.
Yeah.
Whether it'll have implications for the broadcaster, we'll have to see. But I'm not particularly sure that this is representative of what it'll be like in the final.
So where did they release on their website officially?
It scrolled across the screen on the broadcast. Literally, it came up on the broadcast. Either that or it's a very, very, very good fake. But it's been reported from some fairly decent-looking sources, so I think it may be true.
Wow, that is crazy. Okay, hopefully they get into trouble for that because that is absolutely not cool. Okay, so we were at Austria, then moving on to the Netherlands, one of the obvious qualifiers. I don't really have to add much. Went huge in the arena. People really, it's just a fun song, and I don't know what else to add. I said, how I feel about the song, but I know that even though I'm not clicking with it, I know that there's a huge market for out there. Where do you fall right now? I know it has been dropping in the betting odds a little bit. Do you think people are overreacting, or were they too confident in the first place? Well, how do you feel after this announcement? Gabe, I cannot hear you.
Which one?
Netherlands.
I didn't hear you. The Netherlands. It was always going to get through fine. I think it was always going to sort of have a middling final result, in my opinion.
Same. Okay, I don't know. I think top 10.
Once I saw the staging, I think it'll come like 8th, 9th, 10th, that kind of range.
Okay.
I think the staging is just too disappointing, but that was never going to threaten its chances tonight. I think it probably did really well in the semi-final as well.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling on that.
Okay, no, there's not much to say about the Netherlands. It's similar, I think, for Norway. It was always expected to go through, and I'm happy that they went through, and it had to be kind of the final. It just adds a lot more flavor. Any thoughts on your end? This is also expected, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, this one was, you saw it and everyone was like, yep, that was certain. So we move on to the next one. It was very straightforward. And from the moment, like, it was really fun. There was big reaction to it in the press centre. I've had a text from a friend back home, not involved in Eurovision circles, who said they really loved it too. So it clearly went down well with the public.
Yeah, it seems definitely a very televote friendly song. Obviously, Israel qualified. It was similar to what we had in the other predictions. 8 out of 8 in our team predicted. So that's not a surprise either, right?
Yeah.
People are asking about the booing, but we're not going to go into all of that.
On. Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't want to focus on the
We'll
negative.
see them in the final. Next thing,
yes. Greece is next on the list. That one big as well, I think. I couldn't hear much in the because I was picking up my dog. But what are your thoughts? We're getting through the obvious qualifiers right now, I feel like.
She sounded she's been there's been rumors abound in here that she's been ill the last few days. She sounded really great tonight. I thought they delivered the performance well. I'm not sure about the staging. I think that there was potentially a little, we could have seen a little more from the staging. I think the one-shot thing hasn't really come to fruition, in my opinion. In fact, I thought that France did it better. I mean, again, very straightforward. It was exactly what we thought it would be. And no surprise to see them in the final.
No, I always said the song will qualify regardless. Some people were disappointed with the staging or underwhelmed with it, but the song itself was always a qualifier. So people should, not overreact sometimes. And it looks still good. It was just, it's always that over-promising thing. Like, we're going to bring something that no one has ever done before. I mean, that's like famous last words kind of thing at Eurovision. So that's one of the things why probably people talk about.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Estonia, a song that you despise, I'm hearing.
No, I was
Qualified
really
number 7.
delighted. So delighted and relieved, to be honest, because I thought this would have a lot of trouble, and it didn't. So thank God for that. Sensational job, team. It was once Latvia came out, I started being a bit worried because I was like, well, now that's and I thought Estonia might, I didn't know if people would get it or not, but I think people clearly did. I think it'll do decently well in the televote in the final as well. So yeah, absolutely delighted. And I shouted a lot in the press center when that was announced.
I was going to say, I wish I had a camera installed there right that moment, but I'm glad that they're through. I was happy as well. Again, there was still always this little oh my God, Latvia through. Who's going to miss out? I still thought it was Belgium, but I still had Estonia on my mind as well. So I was glad that they made it. And then Switzerland, obviously another obvious qualifier, but boy, that felt so good. I mean, it was, and I get goosebumps when I watched that performance. He sounded and looked so good. It's like he was in his element. I mean, he's always been in his element, but especially today. I don't know what it was, but he felt like this was the performance of the night, I think, or like of the contest so far, the rehearsals. And I went wild, and I usually don't, but I just enjoyed it so much. It obviously stood out in so many different ways. I could see actually Switzerland winning this semi. I still think that at this point, there could be Norway can make a case, but that would be my money right now, where I would put money on. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think Switzerland probably won this semi, or if not, I think it would have been up there with, I think Norway, like you said, I'm pretty confident about as well. I think it was really great tonight. I thought they did a great job. I thought the staging was really, really impressive, and they delivered on what they needed to do. It's super high risk staging, so I'm glad they managed to sort of execute it properly. Hit all the steps. I thought it really came alive on TV. So I'd say doubts definitely calmed. At the same time, for me, having seen everything now, nothing is going to stop Croatia being the favourite at this point, in my opinion.
Oh, you're still thinking that. Well, I'm curious how to see how the betting odds are slightly changing. Again, betting odds doesn't mean everything, but it's just people's perception more than anything. Those who are willing to put money down. You could see France already going up after that performance, which doesn't surprise me. But we're not talking about the dark qualifiers just yet. We'll get to that in a minute. Qualifier number 9 was Georgia, and also ending that non-qualification streak along with Latvia. So just from that perspective, what a great result. I'm so happy to see a new country, not new country, but it feels like a new country almost in the grand final. And it went up in the betting odds every day. And she was awesome. I mean, she's vocally just, that's why I keep going back to what I said earlier, Gabe. Like tonight, really, the really good vocal performances really won people over. And then the ones that were a little disappointing, San Marino, Belgium, and some others, they didn't make it. And so I'm happy for Georgia. Again, I talk about your girl bobs, usually not my go-to, but I can appreciate what was put in the effort here, and it just felt so right on so many levels. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty sure about this one too. I started to get doubts creeping in when it came down to the last two, but the performance was superb, really excellent vocal, excellent choreo. It's an example on how to elevate this, because I think you could have made a case at the start of the week that it might have NQ'd, but as soon as you saw that staging, you knew it wasn't going to happen. I was really impressed. I was really, really impressed by Georgia tonight. I think she is such a natural on that stage, and I have a feeling that may end up being the queen of the girl bobs this year.
Yeah. No, that is good. And then, of course, now the moment happened. We had to wait for the final qualifier. We get the 7-screen, split screen situation. Which one will go through? In your mind, Gabe, you'll see my reaction. I said, it's Armenia. Stop it. What? It's Armenia. And I mean, there's always a 2% doubt in my mind, but I was 98% sure about that one. And I really realized, okay, yeah, definitely Belgium's out. Where was your mind at? Also Armenia?
I knew it was Armenia. Like everyone was saying Armenia. There's a small bit being like, what if there's a massive shock? But
yeah, because Latvia, right?
yeah, exactly. So like, I wasn't too, I wanted Czechia because I really liked that performance tonight. But realistically, it was always going to be Armenia, and that obviously came true. So no shock there.
Yeah, no, I think so too. So those are the 10 songs that qualified. Just real quick, going for the ones that did not qualify in order, a running order. Malta, there was some rumblings. Maybe this could, because it's staged well and all stuff. I just think it was staged well. It sounded good, but I just don't think compared to the other girl bobs, it just didn't have the staying power. And that was my issue. Maybe I had a different conversation if it was closer to the end, maybe. I don't know, but it just did not. It just like at the end of the show, like, did you think about Malta? Like, okay, that's the song that stood out. That I think was the issue here. It wasn't kind of like Cyprus, the feel. So, and the song just, is a little bit more muted in my book. So I'm not surprised, but I thought there could be a surprise qualified. Could have been Malta, but it did not happen for them, unfortunately. It's just like their 3rd non-qualification in a row, I think. Right?
Yeah. I mean, this one was tough. I thought they put themselves in the game because the staging was really excellent. I think they staged the hell out of it. She did everything she could. And she should be proud of this because she literally couldn't have done any more. There's nothing else they could have done. I thought it was in with a real chance tonight. And again, it's one of those ones, once I saw Latvia, I thought, well, we're in trouble now.
Okay. People in the chat, thank you for the super chat. The draw started on Reddit. Somebody said Greece drew first half. So first half Greece, second, that was a comment by Switzerland got producer's choice. So that is good for Nemo because they are considered one of the favorites to win. And Christian Bjorkman basically said he wants to make sure that every song that he considers a winner or potential winner will get the moment to shine. So that is good for them, actually. Austria, second half, Armenia's producer's choice. So I just keep reading them as people tell me all of that. It happens so fast. It's no longer as exciting, like as they individually draw those numbers. So we'll look at the actual full breakout in just a moment. We'll get the running order in a few hours. I will talk about that as well. Let's move on real quick. Albania. That I also said we called it dead on arrival, but a lot of people said that about Latvia as well. But what are your thoughts about Albania's non-qualification?
I think this one probably came last in the semi, to be honest. I thought the performance
so?
was fine, but it was very the staging was not great. The revamp really hurt the song, I think. And yeah, so we've ended up where we've ended up. I think there's really not a great deal they could have done to save this, and they didn't do it anyway. So yeah, last place in the semi. I think probably on the night, unfortunately, the weakest performance.
Yeah, odds on Latvia top get second. I'm not sure. You're saying the odds saying that Latvia got second place? That doesn't sound right to me.
No.
Maybe I understand that.
I think saying on basically, I think I think we should just take. I can't understand, but I guess they're asking how far up the leaderboard we think Latvia can go in the final.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna say somewhere between 11th and 15th if it does well with the jury. I can't see it any higher than that.
Oh, second in the running order, what they mean. Sorry, I misunderstood that. That could be. Because they got Latvia's choice. Producer's choice. Latvia got producer's choice. So that's what they're saying. Got it. The next non-qualifier, that makes me really sad because I thought it looked so amazing and I loved the song. And I had, after the show, I'm like, my hopes were going up just like this a little bit for Czechia. But unfortunately, that did not happen. They deserved it in my book. It's a great song, but I understood it is not the mass appeal as some people would want it to. But I thought she looked good. It sounded good. Everything about it was good in my book. And Czechia, you were robbed. But I knew it was going to happen. Great, Gabe. Any other thoughts?
I really agree with you on this. I think that this was a song that really managed to elevate it. It's come such a long way, and I thought that they were in with a really good chance of qualifying. I really do wonder if they missed out by a very narrow margin. I can just see artists starting to come through for the press conference now, by the way, so I imagine they'll be starting shortly. Gorta just entered the press room. I thought she did really well tonight. I thought it was the best she'd sounded. Again, this is the case if you really can't do any more. I had them down to qualify. Sadly, it wasn't to be. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Austrian art teacher. The Austrian art teacher said, I'm shocked that Belgium didn't went to the final. We'll talk about Belgium in just a moment. Thank you for the super chat. So hold on tight for Belgium on that one. We just want to go in the running order right now of the non-qualifiers. The next one is Denmark. I will say in terms of I always had like there was an outside chance for Denmark, but after watching the performance, I was like, no, that's not going to happen. It just didn't. That's go back to like some people just didn't deliver vocally as well. Denmark had some rough moments, but I felt so bad because did you see her at the end of the performance? There was so much like happiness, relief, and joy that she was just exuding. I was like, oh my God, I just wanted to win now. It was so sweet. And so I do feel bad. I will say that Denmark needs to take in Denmark DR broadcaster has to take a look at themselves because they said last year, we're not doing anything wrong. What we're doing is working and we'll keep doing what we're doing with our national final. And, it just wasn't our year. So I'm like, this is now your 4th non-qualification in a row. And you are a powerhouse. You were a powerhouse at Eurovision. That is a pretty big deal. This has never been this bad for DR. And they just don't have that attitude. And it bothers me. Hopefully that at least will be the silver lining here that they're having a wake-up call that something in the national final has to change. I still feel bad for Denmark because, I love my Danish friends and I love Copenhagen. But yeah, I disappointed, but not unexpected. How do you feel?
I think the same. For me, this was one that was always going to get pushed out tonight. I think it was very, very. They were in a very difficult position to start with. This is a tough semi. In semi one, it may have had a chance. I think the staging didn't quite get there. I thought vocally she was good, but again, it's a victory. It is, as someone says in the chat, it is a little bland, and it left you wanting more, and not in a good way.
Yeah,
So unfortunately, I think this was expected for Denmark. I think they have to really take a good long look at what they're doing, because it is
and
not
be a little bit
working.
more humble about it as well. DR
Yeah.
has not having a humble approach, unfortunately. This is just tough love from me almost, because I want Denmark to do better, and just realize
They've
after
not had a single qualification in the 2020s. Like,
no. Latvia's doing better than them now, like let that, and Georgia, those two countries who have been not in the final since 2016. So they may have the longest non-qualification streak now, if I'm not mistaken. No, San Marino probably. Well, they're tied actually, San Marino and Denmark, I think. No. San Marino had 21, and they didn't have 21. So yeah, so I have to think right now. Anyways, that is Denmark, and who else didn't go through? San Marino. Boy, was that a letdown, this performance. That was the weakest performance. She was over ambitious, I said on Twitter. She was jumping so bad. She was out of breath. She missed her cues, and she couldn't even sing the high notes. She sang them lower. It just did so bad. I'm not saying they would have qualified. I'm just saying that with that performance, they certainly put the final nail in the coffin of non-qualification, I think. So that bummed me out. It was unfortunate, because they've been so fun to be around here. I can see, not me around, but seeing them, and they were so within the Eurovision spirit, so it bumped me out, and I want San Marino back. But this, just as amazing as it looked, it sounded. What do you think?
Same. Really disappointed by tonight. I thought they had a really great chance, but it fell apart, and I'm really, really, really gutted. Really gutted, and I just think all the promise from the rehearsals, it just fell away in that live performance. The vocal was not good enough. You can't get around that. I was wondering whether they were having problems with the in-ears or something, but they didn't perform again. I guess, maybe we'll find out from the band soon enough. But it just, as soon as I heard it, I was like, well, it's a goner. And sadly, that came true.
Yeah. And then the last country on our list and that's the only one, because ESC United got 9 out of 10 qualifiers correct. Belgium, we put as our borderline qualifier in there as well. Of course, most people didn't expect Latvia, so I think most people got 9. And there will be some exceptions. So, but once again, it was not the best vocal performance, and sometimes he sounded better, sometimes he sounded off, but it just, once again, didn't feel right. He was just a little bit sharp. Like, it's just not like horrible, but it just didn't sit quite right. And it just was distracting to me. And that is when you have vocals that are distracting you from the actual song. That is what happens. I've been saying the staging just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because people are talking about he's having 13 microphones there and he is still holding one, not using one of them. And then he walks away from it and then he sings under. It just was visually didn't make much sense either. So I think everything in the end just wasn't meant to be for Belgium. I feel bad, but I still like the song. So, but yeah, this is our surprise non-qualifier-ish. But yeah, a lot of people saw it coming, unfortunately. What do you think, Gabe?
I agree. I think we did see this coming as the shock non-qualifier. I think that vocally it was a little better, but it just didn't sell itself this evening. And unfortunately, we are now in a position where it was always going to fight for it was always going to have a fight to get through. Clearly, people plumped for the other ballads. I mean, look at Don's, and it's a shame for them, because I think this did have a lot of potential, but the delivery wasn't on point. The staging didn't work for me either. And it's a rather sad end to what started out as very hopeful. I think a lot of people were looking at quite high points for this at some point, and that has obviously not materialized.
So just to confirm, Austria was confirmed. Austria, Norway will perform in this. Greece will perform in the first half. Austria, Norway will be in the second half. Armenia, Estonia, Georgia, Latvia, Netherlands, and Switzerland will be producers' choice. So majority of the countries in this semi, part of the producers' choice. I even want to share the run through, but it's so hard to predict anything here because you have half of the field actually still could be anywhere. But I'll do it anyways because why not? I'm going to share my screen real quick and show you the current setup. We'll get in a few hours of the first, second half versus TBDs. We see the first half. We don't know. It could change. Could you see any of these countries, which are Germany, Greece, Ireland, Lithuania, Luxembourg, or UK going second? I don't think so. I think it will be a mid or slower song. Germany potentially, but I don't think they're going to put Germany second.
Maybe potentially, if we look at those choice ones, they might throw a ballad in there. So you got Israel, Latvia, although Latvia would obviously be very very harsh for their first qualification. Israel, Latvia, Portugal, definitely. I think you're going to have a ballad in there.
Yeah,
maybe Serbia as well is in there too. Yeah, could be Serbia.
Yeah, one of the I think so too. It would be either mid-tempo as a top. If any of these, I only could see Germany being in there. Otherwise, I will pick something from the TBDs. Thank you, first of all, Lee, for the super chat. I got 9 out of 10 tonight. I had Belgium instead of Latvia. So did we at Team United. I thought Mustii has his best vocals he's done all week. I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm happy for Dance, who was low in the betting odds before the semi. Yes, as I said, somebody made a lot of money on Latvia's odds. So good for them, I guess. I don't put. Do you do any betting odds at all, Gabe? Or you don't really do that? You unmute. Still. Was it just me? I cannot hear him. Can you guys hear him?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm back on.
No, I can hear it.
I mean, we never quite know, do we? They've generally proved to be accurate in recent years, so I have tended to put some weight on them, but you have to limit it, right? You don't want too much.
Yes.
So it gives you a sign, but it doesn't give you too much. It doesn't tell you everything.
I'm sorry, I missed a super chat, actually. Thank you for pointing that out. Sometimes, this chat moves really fast. Guys, did you realize this year we'll have 14 songs in the national language? This is a win for diversity. This is a very good point. I have to look at the history of the most recent years, at least. Is that the most languages we have? And that's one of the downsides because I'm a big proponent of juries, but the juries have been oftentimes, not all the time, a little bit harsh on non-English entries in their vote. But I think that's another good thing to celebrate here, huh? Maybe encourages countries like Sweden and Germany to switch it up every once in a while. What do you think?
Well, yeah, and I think we need to see some of those countries to shake it up a little bit. With Sweden, we got getting closer with Medina coming second this year, but there's really nothing to fear from using your own language. I think we can see that now.
Yeah.
So,
in terms of second half, we have Austria, Cyprus, Finland, France, Norway, and Slovenia. Could you see any of these closing the show? Finland, maybe, but I feel like that's maybe too wild to be out there. Maybe Austria? Oh, Cyprus could close it as well. One of the first 3 here, I guess, huh?
It could be any of them. I think if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Finland. They did close the show in UMK as well. I think it's a fun, loosen up, shake it off kind of song to have at the end of the night. So I could definitely see Finland closing the show. I think I agree with your assessment that Austria and Cyprus would be good choices for that as well. If we look down into the TBD section, obviously you had the Netherlands closing tonight. I don't know if they do that to them again. Switzerland would make a great closer. Croatia, maybe, not sure. Estonia, I think would be a good shout as well.
Yeah, usually give the last spot to the big, a fun song to end it. Not necessarily the favorite, just some party anthem, whatever. They've done with Lavenda or Adrenalina, those kind of songs. That usually come last. So that is and we'll get the running order in just a little bit. So stay tuned for that. Any questions you have in the chat, as always, at ESC United. I was like, what am I doing here? Stop sharing. I saw my mouse cursor on the screen, but it was actually on the shared screen of my real screen. So I am getting a little confused. How many producers' choices are there? They clearly want to get rid of the half and second draw. Yeah, we talked about that now pre-show. We have half of them, right?
Yes, I believe it's either 13 or...
Yes, 13. Because 6 first half, 6 second half, and 1 direct qualifier, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's why So, do you think I could see France closing like they did with Italy in 2018, and since they are the one of the favorites, it feels too dramatic to be a closer, too emotional. I think I could be wrong. What do you think? Even though I just don't see it happening.
So, say that again. Sorry, you
France.
cut out for a moment.
France.
Yeah, no, they won't close the show with France. I think it'll be quite early in the second half. Sort of, it makes no sense to close a show like that. It's not how they want it to end. That's my
Italy 2018 wasn't a ballad though. It was like a mid-tempo song. It had like a deep meaning, but it was not like a slow song in per se. Oh, I did lose Gabe, I think. Let me bring him back.
Oh yeah.
Did the EBU find you?
Yes. No. I can hear. You can hear me. Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Repeat your question, please.
I don't remember what the last question was. We talked about France, and I was going to say I'm looking at the betting odds right now. The one that's shooting up, of course, is Israel right now into 5th place. France went up a little, now they dropped again. It seems like it's going up and down right now. Let me share the screen actually, so we can see some of the movement if they surprise you or not. Croatia still going to 44%, Switzerland 16%. Any surprise as you see here, France dropped a little, but they were in 5th earlier. So Italy, because they passed Italy and now Italy passed France again. So
yeah, I think this is about what we'd expect. I will say, I think the Israel shortening at the moment is based on that Rai leak, which we need to check if it's confirmed yet. I'm sure the broadcaster or Eurovision will say something at some point. Regarding people saying, well, if it is true, then what? I will say, I think we should avoid reading too much into these things at this stage, just because we should remember that the Italian viewership in the semi-finals is generally pretty small, and the voting public in the semi-finals is obviously much, much smaller than in the final. Far fewer people vote in the semi-finals, which means that if there is a small but very committed group of people who want to vote a lot of times for an entry, then they are going to, it's going to have a big effect. That is not going to be as pronounced in the final, and it's also not necessarily a trend that will be replicated all across Europe either. So just worth bearing those things in mind. And like I said, we don't know it. Like it was on screen. We absolutely are 100% sure it was on screen in that in Rise broadcast. Whether it is real or not, we don't know at the moment.
Yeah. So that is yeah. That's. Hopefully somebody's going to find out soon. After watching all the performances, I believe it will be between France and Croatia for the win. Thoughts? Where do you fall, Gabe?
I think at the moment, I think Croatia is on to win it. I think it's going to win the televote. And it's going to come potentially as high as second in the juries as well. I think that people are massively underestimating its appeal with the juries. It is super, super accessible, and it's performed brilliantly. His voice is amazing. He's going to massively exceed that, carrier voting total. I think also, if we look at the other competitors, we'll work on the assumption that televote result is true. And if we extrapolate that out a bit, I think you're likely to see Israel very high up in the televote, but I don't think it's going to threaten the top 5 in the jury vote. For that reason, I think it will lose out on that basis. Even if that's true, I still don't think Israel is winning Eurovision. The other countries that have a route, Ukraine, obviously we know the Ukrainian televote is going to be strong, could get a good result in the juries, probably going to finish top 5 in the juries. France will do well with the juries, but I don't think it's going to do amazing with the televote. Will do well, but not enough to win. Ireland, televote, great. Juries, not great. Italy is going to do fine, but I think after the performance we saw today, it's not going to win the thing. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Somebody said in chat, my camera's frozen. Let me know if that's still the case or if it's back to normal.
Yeah, it's still a frozen, Matt. I think it might be your internet.
No, my internet's fine, but it's just because I'm going to bring in my different. Sometimes it's software. It makes it freeze. It's really annoying. I'm going to switch over. Hang on. I'm bringing this one in. Hi, I'm in here twice with a really bad unflaring angle, so I can refresh this one. Okay. So I'll be. That was not supposed to happen.
Well, here we are.
Hang on. Hang on.
That's so weird with the double waist.
Okay, hopefully that's fixed it. I don't know, the video started playing too. Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
it's better. This is better. This is much better now. Much better, yeah.
Okay, good. Technical difficulties, y'all. It's for some reason the countdown started again. I was like, no. No, let's not do that. Okay, so what was the last thing we talked about? Oh, France and what you call it?
Thank you very much.
Croatia. I actually have a slightly different opinion on this one. I do think that right now France is probably battling it out with Switzerland for the top 2 in the juries. I'm not convinced that Croatia I can see in the top 5 of the juries, but not top 2 at this point. And I think the televote appeal that France has is much bigger than a lot of people anticipate that are usually like diehard Eurovision fans. And it gives me like voila kind of vibe. And the vocal exercise it does, it just works so well. The reaction, the audience every time is just so mind-blowingly strong. I think people sleep on France a little bit. I don't necessarily have them as the winner yet, but I do think that it's slightly underestimated in the betting odds. But again, I wouldn't put money down for France either to win at this point, so maybe it's not. That's one of the things we talked about earlier. It's all about money. Would you put money down for France to win? I don't know. I would not ever put money down to be first place, but we'll see.
I never bet. I look at the odds, but I never ever place a bet. That's my rule.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, when you look at the betting odds, they've been the last few years pretty accurate at the very end. Things switch all the time, especially on the grand finale night. And even like in semis, for instance, remember when Island Surprise qualified in 2018? And then it went like to third in the betting odds, at the very end. And then, it didn't. It came like, 18th or something like that. So people sometimes overvalue certain aspects of it. Not all, sometimes it works. And I know that the winner of the betting odds ended up winning every year since 2019. And then Israel was second, I think, in 2018 at the end. So I don't know. But the point is, it isn't always right. Keep in mind, for instance, Austria 2018, Cesar Sampson, he was like second to last in the betting odds, and then he won the jury vote. He didn't win overall, but you just never know what's going to happen. So, let me see here. Any other questions in the chat at ESC United? Any other thoughts on your end, Gabe, about the night? Did you enjoy the show overall? Was it? I know you've seen it a couple of times now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, really great show. Obviously a bit strange for the reasons we discussed yesterday. Yeah, I really enjoyed it overall. Really versatile, really interesting. Range of songs, and much more open than the semi-final one. I think it felt like anyone or almost anyone could qualify. And it seems, and like we said, we had a shock and we had a massive shock qualifier. So, yeah, I think a really great show. The show went faster than semi-final one, which kind of dragged in the second half. Overall, lots to be happy about.
Yes. Did you agree with Italy was disappointing? They had merged with such a busy background. Everything looked messy. It's not a contender anymore. I see a lot of comments about that, and I just get always 2019 flashbacks when everyone was saying solely it's like the weird dancing and the it's so distracting. They're not going to do well anymore. That's why I'm a little hesitant about it. People's initial reaction, because they have this visual in their mind maybe that they were expecting for the staging, and that's not what they're getting. So I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just being cautious to freak out over it too much, because I personally agree it's too dark for the song, but it looks classy. So how do you feel about Italy? Are you concerned as well?
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely come top 10. I think the staging maybe lets it down ever so slightly. There's some of these wide shots and stuff. There's a shot at the back of her head at one point. It doesn't quite go to the places it needs to go, in my opinion, to win, and that's a real shame. Because it definitely, coming into the contest, had that potential. I think maybe some lessons to be learned in terms of staging from the Italians, because if you remember, Marco Mangoni's staging, the trampolines in the background was a little bit distracting. And then obviously you had, going back a few years, you had Måneskin. Måneskin is Måneskin, So that was, I don't think anything could have stopped them that year. I very much feel that it's going to be sort of a fourth to 4th to 6th, 4th to 7th kind of finish for Italy.
Which is average for Italy, but amazing for most other countries.
Yes,
You know,
I
which is
agree.
funny.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think about the hosts and the interval act so far, Chalpon? Did you enjoy the hosts and the interval acts? Or I personally, I mean, Petra, it's a little less spicy than there was in previous. Like it's more like family friendly. It feels like it this time around, except like the little tiny jokes, but you know, innuendos, but nothing like too crazy. I enjoy always these cabaret inspired acts where they make fun of themselves, and you know, Petra's really good at that. So I enjoyed it so far. But I don't have strong opinion. It was not like, oh my God, this is an interval act to remember, like what we've had in the past for like years to come. So it's effective. It's effective and efficient. And but yeah, that's basically how I feel about it. Where do you fall?
Yeah, I'm along the same lines. I think the interval acts are effective this year. I think the finish thing with the movements was quite sweet. Yeah, general, very happy with that element. It was nice bringing back the old winners. Can't believe that Sertab is 60. Excellent performance, you know, extremely versatile. And she looks
She's
nowhere near her
60?
age, I must say. Yeah,
I want to look like her when I at that age. Then my lord.
yeah. And so that was obviously an excellent job there as well.
Yeah, no, yeah, that part I like. I mean, Sweden does a good thing bringing. They're all about nostalgia with Eurovision. You can see all these clips from prior years, bringing all the acts back. There's not been any real interval act that has not any sort of connection to Eurovision or any sort of interval act, which I really appreciate. Some people think there is, you know.
It's part of the experience, and people remember the good ones. And Sweden are, to their credit, good at these interval acts. It was funny. It was self-aware. It was, you know, sort of mocking of some of the surrounding countries, but in a way that wasn't too. It wasn't on the nose. Here's Roy. And as a result, I think it was quite good. What do you think, Roy? What are your thoughts on this evening?
What?
In general.
I'm really gutted that San Marino delivered their worst performance on the night. It just basically confirmed that they were going to go through because it looks really good, but yeah, that was really affirming to me that it wasn't going to go through. And Latvia going through, wow!
Amazing.
The first one being called being Latvia, I was like, I'm so happy for Dons. I didn't expect it, but I'm very happy for him. And something big had to miss out. I guess it was Belgium in this case. But yeah, for the rest, pretty much as expected in a way.
Yep. No, I'm yeah, basically what I said.
Yeah.
I agree with all the things that Roy said. Can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, it seems like our team kind of agrees on that. We had lots of disagreement in the first semi, but in the second semi, it seems like we're mostly on board with what was happening with some.
Yeah, we had lots of
minor
disagreements in the first semi.
disagreements. Yeah, and as a reminder to everyone, it's the press conference going on in the back, and if anything important comes up or here, like the team will share that with us. But usually they're kind of boring nowadays because we don't get any running orders or anything. You know, it's just by. Is Israel in there?
I don't know. We can't see in the room, and Latvia's on at the minute. I presume.
Is that early still?
No, they're not doing it. They're not doing it in the same order as they qualified. So I don't know how long they're going on. I've been focusing on this. It's quite distracting. I'm just trying to.
No, I get it. Tomorrow we will have, of course, in the afternoon, early afternoon, the first dress rehearsal of the grand final. Connor and I will be doing that one, and then in the evening we have the jury show. And this one is the jury show, meaning the juries will vote because 50% of the votes will come from the juries, and every artist has to be on top of their game 100%. So if you want to see what's going to happen with the grand final in terms of act and, you know, interval acts, opening acts, join us then. And especially in the evening, you want to make sure that you tune in so you can see if somebody kind of messes up. But I feel like all the good acts in terms of vocals, they kind of made it through. So but we shall see. We can still go, you know, the other way. So when is the running order, Gabe? That's usually like a couple of hours from now. Like sometimes like 3 in the morning.
It'll be late in the night, late in the night. Expected at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Won't be soon. They'll be in the
I
room
want it
talking
to
about
take
it now,
longer
but it's
now.
going to take them a while.
I want it takes longer because they have more room to work with. Previously, there was less room.
Yes, but the Swedes are more efficient than, for example, the Italians. So who knows?
I know that is true. So they will be made in the middle of the night. I wouldn't wait. Sometimes they're done quickly, but they're working on it right now. So they may be fast because they need to know it early on so that they can start doing the rehearsals in the afternoon for the rest of them. What are you looking forward to the most, Gabe, in the grand final? Like the first rehearsal. I can tell you mine, but do you want to go first?
What am I looking forward to most in the
grand final, like the first time rehearsal? What do you really mostly interested in? I'm always interested in the opening ceremony, not ceremony, like the flag parade in the beginning. That's like my favorite part now. So I want to see what they're going to do this time around, because they really started that in Malmo in 2013. So it's kind of fun coming home and see what they're going to do this time around.
Yeah, no, I think we'll see what they do. I think it might be slightly different because I think they're trying to avoid. It wouldn't surprise me if they're trying to avoid moments where there's the kind of,
I didn't think about that.
disquiet in the room and stuff. And it's been super. I was talking about this on BBC Radio this afternoon actually, and it's super mixed in there. But it's a very acrimonious environment, and it's not good for the vibe. I think they're just thinking about it from a show perspective. So their very dispassionate view on this will be very straightforward. We want to avoid these moments because it won't be good for the vibe of the show. That's why I think they're going to avoid flag parades. That's why I think we haven't seen things like that earlier on as well.
Yeah. Can the running order be really fatal for a favorite song? Depends on your definition of fatal. It is statistically proven that early in the running order usually means lower points. It doesn't mean you cannot do well. Let's just say Croatia goes second, right? Which I won't do, but this is for this example. They would go second. I think there's still a great case to be made that they're going to win the televote. However, you can make a case if they win with 220 points rather than 350 points because they went second. That kind of thing could potentially have an impact that they won with less numbers. Because the last time someone won from an early running order was in the televote, was 2003. Sertop, ironically, with a fourth running order, and she won by 2 points. I believe that she probably would have done a whole lot better if she would have been later on in the running order. So it does have an impact. That doesn't mean you cannot do well or you cannot even win, but it is a handicap. Right?
It's a handicap. It's not impossible. I think it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy now, because if you always put weak songs in second place, they're going to do worse. And
yes.
Now we have this impression stuck in our mind. I think it's going to stay stuck. Until we get a random draw again. And eventually, if we have a random draw, someone will probably win from second. In the meantime, we're going to keep seeing this curse continue.
People in the chat, you can relax. Croatia's not going second. It was just the most dramatic example here because that's most likely the most likely televote winner in 24. So that's why I just used that one. They're not going to put them second. Don't worry. It wouldn't work even with the flow. Sweden, Croatia, it's not going to happen. Don't worry. What do you think? Who do you think won the rest of the world vote?
Israel.
I think so too.
Israel will have won the rest of the world vote. There's been a lot of campaigning around that. So Israel will have won.
Yeah, they definitely put even ads out there when our videos run. They're popping up everywhere. So it's certainly happening a lot. It's kind of reminds me of Malta. I remember when Malta was doing all that years ago.
I do remember that, and it triggered a criminal investigation in Malta because it was misuse of broadcaster funds or something like that. That was a whole different story. This time it's very different because it's kind of so we saw in a newspaper here in Sweden there was a group a local Friends of Israel group, which brought out a full-page ad to go to the front page of one of the newspapers, stuff like that. So there's been a lot of campaigning around this, and as people in chat rightly point out, they won it last year too. So I expect that Israel will win rest of the world vote.
I'm offended by this comment Yokasa posted. How much sleep do Krista and Martin get these few days? What about us? How much sleep do you think we get? How much sleep do you get, Gabe? I'm kidding.
Not much. I think everyone, it's such a hectic week for everyone involved. Everyone involved with the contest is on alert and on, go all of the time. And you can't stop. You just keep on running.
Yeah. This is my 16th or 17th consecutive live stream since we started the Saturday before this Saturday. And I hit a wall yesterday a little bit. I slept hard last night. I was usually get up today. I was well, the show starts 10:30 my time, my live stream. I'll get up at usually 6 a.m. for that. So I have a few hours to get ready and look at all the data. yeah, I didn't get up until like an hour later. I slept for like 8 hours, which was nice. But my body needed that because in the past, when I really pushed through too long, I got so sick, and I don't want to ever have to go through that. But yeah, plus at least the only disadvantage, or there are multiple advantages, but the big advantage is there are no temptations for me to go to Eurovision parties right now because I can't have access, and you still going to events and all of that stuff on top of it.
Lots of have to pace myself though, because it can be very, very difficult to sorry, my brain's gone blank.
We're talking about parties.
To not go too hard, yeah.
Yes.
And so you just have to make sure you pace yourself. There's a saying in the on-site team where if you want to be the guy in the evening, you have to be the guy in the morning too. And so that's the main thing.
Yeah. I don't think things going to be as close as people think. Croatia has 44% winning chance, which is a full 30% over Switzerland in second on 14%. Two things. Don't just go by betting odds. We said that earlier. Betting odds can be deceiving. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I wouldn't just put all your thoughts on that. Number two, check again tomorrow, because now the second semifinalists may come up, those who did more than people expected or so. You can make, or like people perception of it, because Israel's now in fourth place already in the betting odds, and Switzerland kind of like stagnant right now, but there are other countries that moving around as well. So I would wait until we have a little bit more of a fair playing field, right?
Yep, I very much agree with you on that one. I think, and also the final is a whole different beast. You see countries flying up and down countries' televotes in the final.
Remember when Austria got first in the running order? It was like everyone's like, never mind. They're not going to win.
Exactly. And for example, Australia, which won the semi-final and then comes on like 18th. With the televote in the final. I think we'll see what happens. I will say at this stage, if presuming that. I think I will have to sort of realign my predictions for what's going to happen on Saturday if that comes true. And if that televote kind of figure was, replicated across Europe. I do think, though, I cannot see any potential scenario in which Israel gets the kind of vote that Ukraine got in 2022. There's just no, I think we need to, there's sort of, I think people are jumping to a lot of conclusions very quickly here, and maybe I'll be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times before, but that was a total freak situation in which basically the entire collected European public felt collectively sympathetic to Ukraine and Ukraine only over Russia, whereas, as we know, without getting into political commentary, this one is a lot more divisive, right? So it's never been possible to win the contest, by relying on televotes from a small and extremely passionate fan base. You can't do that, not in the final. The voting volume is too great. In a semi-final, I see how that might happen, but I severely doubt we're going to see a replication of that in the final.
Yeah. Well,
the sources of it are totally different. The voting, I think what will happen is the number of votes that Israel receives in the final compared to the semi-final will jump considerably less compared to other countries, because people who want to vote, with the whole atmosphere around that participation, people who want to vote for Israel are a lot more motivated to vote in semi-finals than any other country. In the final, everyone who wants to vote does vote. Even people with very low investment, very low sort of involvement in the contest. So it's a totally different set of people. For that reason, things can look very different. Like I said, Australia went from first to 18th. So I think everyone just needs to sort of look at this for what it is, sort of take it into account, maybe when rejigging how things are going to go. But yeah, we should point out, like, if I go and look at the YouTube views, for example, I'm just going to get this up now, because if I see what I suspect I'm going to see, then I think people should probably calm down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's all developing. It takes a while for these YouTube views.
We can't see the. There's not many. Every single one is showing about 5K views right now. So I think it's just it's a bit early in the day.
Yeah.
But like
Speaking
you'll
of-
see, I don't think it's going to be significantly above. And what we saw with what we often see with televote favorites in the semi-finals is a very high number of streams, very high number of YouTube views, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Speaking of views on YouTube, the one in the semi one kind of was leading a little bit even ahead of Croatia was Ireland. So Sarah's question is, I think Ireland still has a shot. Gabe, do you think that Ireland has a shot, I assume, at winning?
I think juries are going to, I think it'll struggle with juries, and I think it may struggle as well with the televote in some more conservative countries. For that reason, I don't think that Ireland is in with a shot of winning. I think it could do very well. And I think it could do very well, especially with the televote. There's a lot of contenders for that this year, but I can see it getting 3 figures. I think Ireland is definitely on for a left side finish at the very least, and that is a massive, massive achievement for them. So fingers crossed that comes true, because I think it could really transform the future of the contest in Ireland. Yeah.
And views are only one thing, because number one, like for instance, Croatia has way more likes and all that stuff, and also Poland got like the 5th most viewed video, something like that, really high, and we know what that happened there. So it's also just one tiny little bit aspect of things. So take everything with a grain of salt. We don't know for sure until we see those results Sunday morning after the live show. So, and as a reminder, we'll be here back early tomorrow afternoon, whenever that is. I forgot the time. I'll put the link up in time. So make sure to subscribe to our channel. Any final thoughts on your end, Gabe, about tonight or tomorrow's show? Just excitement, or what do you think right now?
Just, looking forward to see how the show pans out tomorrow. I'm very curious to see what they do with the running order. It'll be interesting to see what impact, where these, what goes where from the producer's choice section. Like I said, I mean, I wouldn't completely rule out, to some quite shocking sort of placements, sort of, things ending up in second, for example, that we don't expect yet. I think there's a lot to. I have a lot more questions than I usually do. I'm still feeling very much like the winner in there is Croatia, but we'll have to see for ourselves. There are plenty of others who could still, in theory, forge a path to that anyway.
Yes.
How about you, Matt? What are your thoughts?
I don't know why I'm so anxious. I'm always so anxious about the results, because I always want to do really good at my predictions, and then I just never know what to do. So right now I'm agreeing with what you're saying. I think right now, if I had to put my gun to my head and decide on a winner, I still think it'll be Croatia. So it'll be very interesting, because you get really, really a feel when you see the running order, and when you see how it feels as you watch the dress rehearsals, and how the song, like, oh, okay, now I get it. So, and really comes down to who the producers want to do well. I know they're saying that they want to make every song shine, but someone's going to miss out. I'd rather shine in position number 20 than position number 7. You know what I mean? I'd rather have more competitive entries around me in position 20 than less competitive in 6th position. So that's just a reality that I think. So that's why that is also going to be an important factor, which goes back to why I don't like this producer-driven thing. But I digress. We keep talking about it. So I think just like we weren't surprised today with Latvia, I think we'll be in for a few surprises as well on Saturday, which makes Eurovision so much more fun.
Matt, I'm going to have to...
I'm going to head out town too.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And we'll be back tomorrow early afternoon for the first dress rehearsal. Make sure to be around. It's going to be a long show. So... get ready, buy some snacks and drinks, and I'll see you there, okay? Have a good night, everyone.